Hello, everyone. We're here for a very special episode of Skydio Nation tonight. This isn't in our regular, usually feed, but we want to get some breaking news out to you. We have two people on the show tonight who received their Skydio 2s this week. They've both posted a lot of good videos up already. They've learned a lot of stuff. Ken just learned some important stuff about the controller today. So with no further ado and messing around, I'm going to throw it to my co-host Marcus to get his thoughts.
Well, so Ron, you and I both have got the email and have our Skydios ordered, so we're just waiting for them to show up. So like any good enthusiasts, right, we're watching every video we can, and both Ken and Billy have been putting out stuff just as fast as they can get to it. And what you find is when you look at those videos, it raises as many questions as it solves for you. So thank you guys for coming on tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having us.
I'm sure everybody in the audience probably knows Billy and Ken. They need no introduction, but I don't want to lose steam. We were talking right before we went in the air about Billy's video, his first video, where he was on his board and the drone lost him, and he was just about to explain to us how that happened. Billy, you want to? I think I set it up well enough. If anybody's seen the video, you want to dive into that because we were having a good conversation.
Yeah, so the way that the tracking works with the Skydio 2 is like a mixture of DJI's Active Track, where it uses, like the camera software to track you. And then it also uses the beacon as the other half. So if you don't have the beacon, then it'll just kind of track where your mobile device is at. And it'll also track the actual person, kind of like Active Track does. So if it loses you with just the phone, well, then it's not going to know where to go. That's why the beacon is so important. So when you've got the beacon accessory, and if it can't find you directly, it'll just follow the connection of the GPS signal. So I could go for a mile and the drone might not be looking at me, but it'll follow along with the GPS signal. So there's kind of two parts to the puzzle here. You have the visual portion of it where the drone sees you and identifies you as the subject it wants to track, and you have the GPS signal. So the drone will keep up with you as you're doing whatever. If you're riding in a car, if you're riding an electric skateboard, if you're going on a bike, it'll keep up with you. But if it loses sight of you, if the camera kind of veers off to the left, or if you quickly dodge out of the frame, well, then the drone is going to be kind of looking around for you. And once it determines where you're at, it'll come over and recenter. And just for anybody that, when you get your Skydio 2, it kind of you'll know when it sees you because it makes this movement where it puts you right into the center of the frame. So there's those two portions, and that's why some people might be a little bit down on the whole tracking. But I think there's a bit of a skill to it. Like, you want to make sure you're in an area where you can put the drone in a place where it can succeed. Because like what I did going down a bridge and what I did going past power lines certainly didn't help it whatsoever. But I think that if you're in a more open area than I was, it's just going to be money.
Billy, that was some dramatic video. I mean, you're usually unflappable in your videos, but I could see the look on your face. Like, I don't know, I've ever seen in one of your videos before.
Yeah.
It was like a Hollywood movie. I was sitting there on the edge of my seat when you were doing that. Like, when it was dodging a tree branch, when you went through the bridge and it went through the part where the car went. I mean, I was on
the wires, Ron. The wires.
The wires were amazing. Yeah.
It went. I mean, you know how you have some of those telephone wires where it's like, you have one and then one on top of it, and they're very close. It went through both of them.
Oh, God.
Like, maybe you had a foot of clearance and it cleared both of the wires. It kind of took a second. It understood where it was at, and then it just made the quick dart straight through the wires and came right back into the front of me riding my board. So.
in fourth gear too, or whatever. It was
yeah, that's the thing too, is like, you'll be, if it's trying to catch up to you, you'll hear the motors ramp up so fast to the point where you think that it's like, if you heard the motors going any faster, you would think that the drone is like gonna fall from the sky or the motors are gonna burn out. You know how sometimes you get the the overload warning on the motors, like where the motors can't spin anymore on DJI's drones.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think that you'd hit that or something.
You'd think you would, but wow. Well, and Ken had a similar thing at that, I'm going to call it that little woods. What were those trees you called in Florida? You said you were going around the The
Oh,
moss.
yeah, it's just oak trees, but they have a lot of like Spanish moss hanging.
Yeah. I mean, that was dramatic too. When that thing, you guys were going through there, and you were running through it, and it was dodging all those trees and branches of whatever. That was also, I mean, just
it does good, but the thinner the branches, obviously, if you read their warranty, they don't like, there's like this disclaimer about thin branches. It'll get hung up. And what I noticed too, the moss was moving because it was windy. So it was moving back and forth. So you'll see it's sitting there like trying to figure out like, okay, where do I go? What do I do? And it won't like ever lower altitude sometimes to dodge an obstacle. You have to manually tell it to lower down. Otherwise, it'll just try to punch through a path. Like it'll go higher, but it won't go lower. That's what I've seen in several tests.
That's what I've seen too. And sometimes when you have the drone sitting there and you try to decrease the height, because you can do that within the beacon, which I found out recently, you can actually control the drone and fly it around with the beacon as if it's a controller. So you go into the steering mode, and then the two arrows at the top, you use those to like spin the drone left and right. You push the blue button to go forward, and then you use the plus and the minus button to go up and down. So theoretically, you can fly it around with the beacon and use multi-touch controls and like kind of go forward and left at the same time. It certainly isn't the best, and there seems to be a little bit of lag on like the control back and forth. But that's a great way to get it back to you. But when I was trying to decrease the height and the obstacle avoidance sensors were on, it gives you a warning saying that it can't go any lower because of those sensors. So
it depends on the tracking, but in the app you can turn off the height floor. So you can get it really low. You can get it really low, but the by default it's set to 8 feet. That's by default. But if you turn that off, you can get it to track pretty low, but there's still like this imaginary bubble. And I've scoured through the application with the controller today because I wanted to like put it through a tree, and it wouldn't do that. Like it would go around the wishbone. Like, but then sometimes it would say, okay, well, I'm going to go through the wishbone. Like it had a mind of its own. Like you can run the same course twice and it would make, 3 totally different decisions each time. It's sort of weird. But what happens is it like understands the area. I don't know if it retains the paths that you go over or gains knowledge of that area, but sometimes it would go through it much more efficiently. You'd notice it wouldn't stutter going up to an object.
So something that I heard from Steve, and he heard this online, is that apparently you can reach out to Skydio and they will tweak the bubble that you have around the drone. So right now it's 1 meter or like 3 feet. And if you contact them, they're able to decrease that bubble around your drone. I don't know by how much. I don't know if it voids the warranty, because I know the warranty is something big that people are talking about. But you can definitely decrease that bubble, which is something that people who want precise flight probably can do. I don't know what the process is though, but that'd be interesting to see.
I mean, I just think it should be something that should be available within the application. I think ultimately, like sort of like Nissan, the GTRs, they have a launch button. And when you press that launch button, you void your warranty. Like that's like it's in the Nissan clause of the GTRs. So I think there should be the ability to user control decrease, say how much you want that circumference. And if it wrecks, you're the one taking responsibility for that.
Now, see, that's Nissan. My Corvette is fully warranted. I'm out at the drag strip with that Corvette. I use launch mode. I grenade the motor. I grenade the rear end. Fully covered under warranty.
But you know why, Marcus? That's
it's
because you have a Chevy.
I'm sorry.
So in this case, Ken, the
analogy.
The Skydio is sort of the Nissan and the
well they're not. It's
would be the Chevy.
It's actually not either. It's not either because they're not giving us that option. But it's still very new. Like what's going to happen is more people keep touching this drone, and beyond us, more end users that they don't post content online. But what's going to happen is as these unknown pilots start flying, they start having problems or issues, they're going to voice their concerns in droves to Skydio, and they're going to have to make changes, just like the oversight of not having any telemetry available for us to see. That's sort of huge.
That doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense. The other thing that I would love for them to do, somebody asked me, well, can you launch this on a boat? And my response to them is yes and no, because like the Nafi was really hard to land. Like you have to press the button, and if you're drifting, well, it's already landing here. Like the Mavic, you can sling a Mavic into your hand and like grab it like midair, and you can stop the motors. Like I want to be able to land a drone, like slam it into my hand, like, you know, palm catch it, not have it start descending.
Here's the thing: is they just need to incorporate something into the software where it disables the obstacle avoidance, and maybe
it is during landing and takeoff. It's disabled. I did not know that when I first took off. I didn't know that. I took off in my front yard and I had those wires. Had no idea, and I took off with a beacon, and it, like, you know how it goes away from you because it's like it's that circumference. I had no idea, and it's going towards the power lines. I'm like, oh, this is fine. I had no idea that the obstacle avoidance. I don't know when it enables itself. Like at what point?
So, I found I tried to hand launch my Skydio also, and anytime I hand launch a drone, I've always got the camera pointed at me, right? So I tried to hand launch it, and it wouldn't because it detected that
it's motion.
As soon as it detected that the camera was pointed straight at me.
Oh, okay.
But as soon as I spun it around and put the butt towards me and the camera facing away, it knew that, and then it said, "Okay, you can hand launch." So it obviously detects that there's a face in front of the camera or whatever, however the software operates. And I think the reason they do that is because those front propellers have underslung motors, and they don't want you taking off with them closer to your face. So the drone,
it makes sense.
The drone, it's a cool sensation. The drone lifts up and forward from your hand at the same time and then spins around to look straight at you. And if you're going to be taking off with the beacon, you really want to make sure that you are standing in front of the drone, because then it'll pick you up, because remember, it has that like blend of active track and the GPS beacon. So it'll pick you up with the software and then track you. Whereas if you take it off with the camera facing the other way, the camera or the drone will literally buzz around and try to find you and spin around. It's kind of funny. Like it's almost searching for you.
There's some like nuances though that I wish they would fix. Like I want it to just take straight up. I don't want it to like, I would like for it to auto default like into a mode where it's like, in order for it to track you, you press like the Skydio button, then it'll start tracking you. So that way you can have a smaller circumference of takeoff.
Yeah, I mean, you can, if you hit the stop button on the bottom, it just comes to a hover and it's
that's what I've done. I've just hit stop immediately. Like now that you know that.
Yeah, you can go into the settings, and maybe it would be cool if they implemented something where it was like, upon takeoff, does it always default to this certain thing, whether it be the steer, motion track, or fixed track, or does it allow you to just use whatever the last used mode was?
And that's the biggest problem like with it right now, and it's not really a problem because it's just software, is the application is so limited. Like it's a very bare bones app. I was telling them that if you ask me which app was more complicated, the DJI Fly More app or the Skydio app, like here I am, I've been ripping on the Fly app. And then we get this, and I'm like, well, the Fly app doesn't seem so bad now. Like you gotta, like it doesn't seem so bad.
Here's something interesting. They don't let you take off unless you have an SD card in. You have to have an SD card in.
What the hell?
Like I had an SD card that was broken, and I tried to format it to the software.
And it won't
format.
It wouldn't format for me.
It won't format. And if you want to try and format that card, you have to dig through like 5 different menus in order to get to where you can actually format it. Whereas right there on the front screen, if it says, "Oh, do you want to format your card?" you should just hit yes. So that's a big pain, but you can't fly without an SD card, because
have you tried transferring files?
Well, you can if you're connected to the beacon. You can only do it from the phone to
the controller's the same way. If you want to transfer files, you can't transfer files if you're connected to the controller, which to me, that's sort of a bummer, because like it's a pain in the neck, because they tell you to shut your Wi-Fi off on your phone. Then it feels, that portion feels like not very well thought out. It feels a little bit clunky. But I mean, they could probably smooth that out maybe.
Right. I saw one user said that he put a memory card in, and the Skydio told him your memory card's too slow, and it wouldn't take it.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's right in at 100 megabits per second. So you're going to need to have like the fastest cards possible, which Billy and I both use the SanDisk Golds.
Extreme.
The Extremes.
I use the Extreme Pro, the black one, the black and red.
Yeah, and they work fine.
Yeah. So be aware of that, everybody. You can't put it'll reject a slower memory card.
I had an issue today where I tried to format it. Oh, you know what it was? The auto record. The auto record's like a love-hate relationship, because once you hit auto record, I can't for the life of me figure out how to stop it from recording.
Neither can I.
I'm like, you should be able to stop recording if you know what I mean. Because like, I want to switch over to a photo mode. You can't do that. And then it resets itself every time you connect the controller. So you always have to. I don't know. There's just some goofy things. I'm sure they'll fix it though.
Right.
Here's the thing I can say is if you're going to be using a memory card, make sure you've got like 128 gigs, which they're not all that expensive. But after I fly 2 batteries, I've got 40 gigs of footage shooting at 4K60.
It totally negates the purpose of us clicking stop record like we normally. We're not missing anything though, I guess.
I know. I mean, so with this, I mean, I wish that they implemented something into the remote where you can just click a button in order to start or stop recording, because that would be a lifesaver.
But you know, it's funny. Like these are the things that like you didn't hear. Like of all the pre-release people that flew this, and it's been in people's hands now for what, 2 months
at least.
Yeah.
Nobody has said anything about, you know, there's like all these little like, you know, critical nuances that we're talking about right now. Is that, you know, none of this was talked about, and it's sort of disappointing that, you know, now you got to wait for the engineers to go back to the drawing board. And, you know, in typical software terms, these changes to us may seem simple, but to them, they may have to, you know, vet it, you know, several times. I don't know if they have an active beta program, but it'd be cool if they did and let people like us test the application beforehand and say, hey, yay or nay. Right. I don't know. Would be cool.
The biggest pain is that you can't charge the battery standalone.
And it turns the drone on.
Yeah, the USB-C port should be on the battery so that I can just go like plug them in.
Yeah,
whereas I got to charge it. I've got to charge it through the drone. And also, whenever you charge the drone, it turns on, and there's no way to turn the drone.
And you got to take that damn gimbal guard off every time you charge, otherwise you'll burn up the motor because the gimbal is literally live. I wonder if that's going to cause any stress long term.
That's what I'm saying. Is like you've got the drone turned on for 40 minutes while the battery's charging, and the gimbal is on. Like either way, whether or not the gimbal is just sitting there, you're still somehow causing.
There's a load. There's a mechanical load, and it gets pretty hot too.
Well, watching your video caused me to order the dual charger when I ordered my drone.
I've got to order it too. I mean,
I'm ordering it. It's a necessity at this point.
Yeah.
Here's something pretty interesting as well, right? So on the top of the drone, you have like the cameras here. You have a little like fin, and near all the cameras, there's one of these fins, so that when you set the drone down upside down, the cameras don't rest on the table. Which is good because you don't want to scratch up those cameras. And something I've noticed is just the way that I put the drone down, because you grab it from the center. I'm always smudging up this camera. So it might be a good idea to always wipe this camera before you fly, because any sort of debris on there.
That's why they give you that cloth. I read their pamphlet, and that's what they said too. Is like they know if you've wiped the cameras down before flight. How crazy is that?
That's kind of like the with the Pixel. When you go to shoot a photo, it'll warn you and say, "Hey, your lens is dirty. Clean it." So I think that that's the same thing with this, and it makes sense because if there's any smudges, cracks, dents, anything on those cameras, it's going to affect the obstacle avoidance.
You know what I noticed today? I was flying. I was in Tampa, and I noticed that I had some pretty good horizon tilt too. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, "Crap! I wonder how you calibrate the gimbal." And there's no way in the app where you can calibrate the gimbal. It just does it on its own. But there was some pretty good horizon.
So the only way to fix is a reboot.
Yeah, and it reboots and it's fine.
My thing with my gimbal is that it kind of like points to the right, or it kind of points to like the left. So when the drone is flying, it's almost flying tilted like this.
Yeah.
To compensate for the tilt of the camera. Which seems to be something that's just built into the drone, because if it's tilting like that to correct itself, maybe they figured that the gimbal usually points this way, so let's tilt the drone. But out of all the footage you watch, it seems like the drone favors to put the person on the right or the left side. And maybe that's like a rule of thirds thing, because obviously the most
looks better.
It looks better. But sometimes it goes a little too far. Like sometimes I'm on the very edge of the frame, and it's like I wish that I could censor this better.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Ken, let's open a real can of worms here. Everybody, Ken received his Skydio controller today, aka the Parrot controller, and Ken discovered a bug, I guess we would call it, that nobody talked about before. You want to elaborate a little bit, Ken?
Which bug?
No telemetry.
Oh, okay. Well, that's actually just across the board.
Yeah.
With just the application. So the application doesn't have any telemetry whatsoever. There's also it's sort of weird. It seems like it disconnects frequently. It did it twice to me today while I was flying. It would just disconnect and you got to connect it back. But the drone's smart enough to stop as soon as you disconnect. It'll just like sort of freeze and you can reconnect and it's fine. So
Ken, was that a control disconnect or an FPV disconnect?
no, controller disconnect it from the drone.
Oh wow.
And then just like you take the cable out of your phone and then it'll connect and you got to shut your Wi-Fi, just obviously make sure your Wi-Fi is off. But this was after even the wireless was off. It was prompting to try to connect. So, I think it's just, still, again, the controller. Maybe this is the reason why we didn't see so many people fly with the controller. Like of all the videos, we saw everybody play with the beacon. We saw people play with the phone, but it was always like the controller was like sort of like hush hush. You know what I mean? Like I saw a couple people play with it.
Well, Kyle Werner told us that Skydio told him not to test the range with the controller.
Well, you wouldn't even be able to know how far you were freaking going unless if like I had like if Billy and I were side by side and he took a Mavic or I took a Mavic and trailed behind him, that would give us an accurate depiction of about how far it would go.
Mm-hmm.
Would it make sense? I mean, that would be the safest way to do a range test. I mean, I guess I don't know if that counts as a spotter, but
no, you can't have it. It can't be unaided. So you can't use binoculars. You can't use a drone. You gotta be with the eyeballs, man.
Like Kelly Shores did with the guy in the car.
Yeah.
But does it have to be your eyeballs though?
Yeah,
I think so.
It's got to be the pilot's eyeballs to see it though. I don't know. There's no legal way to do it. So either or way, it's breaking. We'll leave the country to do it, I guess.
Yeah.
There you go.
And you had some range issues out there today too, and you compared the range to sort of like the Anafi.
I do. Well, with the controller, I feel like it has a lot of Anafi like tendencies. Only because like when I was in Tampa, like I was starting to get a lot of breakup, and you can, I don't know, you could feel like there was times where it would stutter, but at least with this, I didn't really fear that there was any issues. Oh, and it was very windy too today. And I kept getting a lot of wind warnings on the application.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it'll pop up and it'll say high wind velocity may affect the way Skydio 2 performs. But it didn't seem like it was going to affect anything. It seems like it would be smart enough to land itself if it felt like it would crash. I don't know. I just got that feeling from this drone.
Right. You talked about the disconnects with the the control. It looks like the Anafi, and Mark has mentioned too. When I'm flying the Anafi, most of the time when I have the disconnects, they're only Wi-Fi. I mean, they're only FPV disconnects. I usually have full control of the drone. It's just that I leave my FPV until I like fly through the Wi-Fi drone. But that wasn't the case here. You were actually losing connection.
Yeah, I lost connection to the controller, and again, like I'm sure they'll address those. I don't know what information they haven't reached out or said anything about sending logs, but I'm sure that they're aware of some of these problems. And, again, we're using somebody else's technology, it's Parrot's tech. I don't know what's left over, essentially, but it's to be expected.
Is there a way to access your flight logs?
Yeah. I don't know if you can decipher it though, but you can upload it to them, but I don't know. Well, in theory, no, it should be stored locally on our devices. If we open up a browser from Mac, we should be able to navigate to those files. I just don't know what their files look like if Air Data could read it.
So Kyle Warner, when he was beta testing, he actually had 2 SD cards. If you look where you guys put the SD card in, there was another one right next to it that
they blocked it up.
Yeah, and he would. I don't know if he would upload that to Skydio or whatever. So.
Right. If you had a test unit, they were probably asking for logs probably after each flight or who knows.
Right.
But yeah, that makes sense. They would block that up now that these are in production. I mean, it's just I guess this is a good gauge of how fast their development team addresses these concerns after they were voiced. Because I know with DJI, they take a little bit of time. We would complain about something, and then 2 or 3 months down the road, we would hear something, but you would never get any verbal or postings from them that they confirmed that this was an issue. They've never admitted that there was a problem. Does that make sense?
It does.
It absolutely does.
Like,
we got a question from the chat. J Bird Drones asking, does it have live feed for YouTube,
No.
Facebook?
No, there's no social media integration. I don't know. I didn't even really think of that.
Well, you would think for the mission of that drone, that would be something that they would want.
Yeah, I could see like wanting the need for that because it's heavily dependent on your phone. But then again, in most of the areas where they demoed this, I'm pretty sure you probably wouldn't have cell service.
That's true. But action sports people that they're kind of designing it for that, man, they'd love to live feed, wouldn't they?
Oh,
yeah, 100%. I mean, I would hope to think that they wouldn't just gear this totally towards, action sports, because the reality is that's just a small niche of people who fly. Like Billy said, if it's going to work with drone deploy, there's a whole enterprise solution that is gearing up, and I'm sure they're working hard on as well. They had a pretty good presence.
They're really working hard on that, I think, because there's a guy who works for Skydio I've been DMing on Twitter. And that I kind of asked him, I was like, is there anything in the pipeline that you guys have coming out that, is cool? And all he really talked about was enterprise stuff. That's what he seemed to be really excited about. And I watched a video that it was like an interview with Adam, who's the CEO. And he was also talking about enterprise as well. So I think that they're really trying to make a break in that market.
Ken, we got another question from the chat. Kolsky RC says, Ken, how do you compare the video to the Mavic 2 Pro?
I haven't done them side by side. I'm working on that, but I mean, I don't know. Video is subjective. I think the video looks really nice right off the SD card. I mean, it's very crisp. It's buttery. I feel like you don't get as much like lens distortion as you do with the Evo. The Evo had a very like sort of bowed view in the camera because that really wide angle lens. But with this, you really don't. You get a really wide field of view, but it's not overly sharp where it looks fake. I can't describe it. It just looks really good. The raw footage looks really good.
And I think the colors and the white balance are on point. Everything coming straight out of the camera.
Yeah.
I mean, without
it doesn't switch. The exposure doesn't switch very often either. It's not an overly aggressive exposure.
Yeah, with what I've been using just with the beacon, not having any control over the camera, I'm really impressed with the footage that I've gotten. I think that sometimes it tends to clip the highlights just a little bit. And I even took it out tonight. Like the sun sets at like 4:30 and I was out at like 4:05. And the sun was also behind a hill, so it was very dark. And I noticed a little bit of noise in the shot. I was still shooting at 4K 60, so maybe the shutter was cranked up to 120 when it should have been lower. But I'm really impressed with the video quality off of this drone. And considering it's like a selfie drone, right? I think that it's more than enough than what certain people would need who are going to be buying this drone.
I think this is the first drone where I've been okay with shooting in automatic. I've not shot in automatic in forever. And I shot in automatic with the zoom, and you can see there's obviously a big difference in dynamic range just going through those trees. The shot from the Skydio looks so much more vibrant and detailed, where the zoom almost blew out the highlights all the way through because it didn't really know how to discern the shadows from the highlights. But yeah, you can literally take this footage right off the SD card, not do a damn thing to it, and nobody would I don't think anybody would complain whatsoever.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a good drone for people that don't like to edit their video or whatever.
Oh, yeah, exactly. There's so many people that just want to. Well, and what's cool about it is in the application, there's like a little clip editor, and you can edit your clip before you're done, and it'll save it right to the SD card, or you can save it to your phone or whatever you want to do with it. I mean, it's not anything frivolous, but it gets the job done in a pinch.
Bill Thomas is asking, is the depth of field better, the low light colors and such?
The colors don't really change with a low light. I mean, the reality is this drone isn't a drone where you're going to fly in low light, though. You got to sort of think of it in terms of a GoPro. Like, a lot of people are like pissed that this thing won't fly at night, but I don't use my Osmo Action at night. I don't use my GoPro at night because they don't do well at night.
Well, not only that, but Skydio tells you. They tell you it's
not a big surprise. It's not a big surprise. I think
it's not like DJI's optical avoidance works at night. It's not like you're trying to compare.
Exactly.
I mean,
and we wouldn't fly one of our like compact sensors at night. Like typically when I want to do night photos, it's like, okay, I'm going to grab the Mavic 2 Pro because that I know it does well at that. So maybe we'll figure that out later. Like maybe Skydio 3 infrared or something.
Yeah, you would need like a radar or something. I mean, and that's huge.
Need freaking Batman.
Infrared.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow.
The when I first got the drone, I was like walking into my apartment building, and the UPS guy was there. I was like, "Oh, you got a package for me?" And I gave him my name. He handed me the package, and I walked upstairs and I took it out immediately, and it was on the truck all morning. So as soon as I picked it up, it was really cool to the touch, and I thought it was made of metal at first.
Yeah,
Like, this thing is made of metal.
But doesn't it feel like I said it was rigid, and somebody's like, "Well, rigid's not good." I'm like, rigid feels pretty good. I mean, it just feels like when you feel like the Mavics, like they almost feel like hollow, like the plastic feels hollow, and this doesn't feel like. I mean, I get it; it's going to be flying, but it feels really good in the hand. It's a fun drone to touch.
Agree.
Right.
Well, and obviously they had to know that this is going to be a drone that's going to be put into perilous situations.
Yeah.
Often. So I'm quite sure that it was designed with that.
Well, you saw Adam is he's flying on a plane and he's charging his phone on a plane with the Skydio. Like, I'm like, that's pretty boss. Like, you just have that much confidence in your product. You have your drone out on a plane charging your phone. Like,
but imagine it was at nighttime too, and imagine all the people that were probably so upset that the bright lights were going.
Yeah, the lights are pretty bright. I know people are also upset that it's not as portable because it's not foldable. But I don't know if it really matters as much now to me, because I think you can make like a small case for this. Like, I put it in my bag and it fit pretty flat. Like, it's a very flat drone. And then you're not supposed to transport it with the batteries engaged in it either. It's the design of it is you take the battery out, put them on either side. Like, if you try to store it with a battery in it, it won't let you. It's not going to sit flat. So I think for the most part, most people won't have a problem to put this in their carry-on suitcase or just put it in a backpack. I don't think there's any problem with it whatsoever.
So it makes a good travel drone also then.
Yeah, I mean, I travel with multiple drones. Billy travels with multiple drones. I've never had a problem. I remember he got off a plane one time with the Phantom 4 Pro, Mavic Air. He had like 6 drones in a bag, and I didn't even know. Like, it looked like he was like smuggling crap over the border. So, I mean, you can travel with anything really, except for the Inspire. That thing's going underneath.
I've never been questioned taking a drone on an aircraft. They've never even given a second look ever.
Right.
Pre-check solved those problems for me.
Well, that's true.
Exactly. Hey, for either Billy or Ken, I get a lot of people when I talk to them about Skydio. They say, "Oh, the Skydio is not for me. I don't need an autonomous follow me drone. That's not what I'm looking for." And I try to, say, well, it comes with a real controller. And I think with that real controller, you could also fly it as, sort of a regular drone. Is what I'm telling them, is that true? Or
no? Yeah, it's definitely true. However, like a normal drone, like if I was flying the Mavic, I probably would have destroyed the Mavic today. Just doing what I was doing. A Mavic, you can't close your eyes and hit full stick forward and know that it's going to make it through the woods. It's probably, it may crash, it may stop, but this, you can close your eyes quite literally, and it doesn't matter. You can close your eyes, full sticks forward, and it will find a way through a path. I think it does better avoiding obstacles with the controller because it has time to sit there and think. And like I said, as it goes through the same obstacles over again, like the same trees, I don't know if it has memory of what course it's already went over. But like I said, it felt like it was getting faster going through the trees. Like it knew, like, oh, hey, I've been here before. It's just weird. I've never experienced anything like that before.
Right. So, for instance, it's kind of an all-rounder then, like for these people to say that, they can still fly it like a photography drone, but if they do want to, take it into tight spaces or follow me, it's kind of like, it may not be the best. It may not be the best as a.
Well, I just think it's a follow me drone. It's not a follow me drone. It's just, that's just what they advertise, because obviously, like when you think about it, that's the wow factor. Like we all were like watching that promo video and we were like jaws on the floor, like, wow, because that's the wow factor of what they were trying to sell. But the reality is it's not just a follow me drone. You have this controller that lets you fly. I'll say this. I said it in the video. I was flying 70% of the time. And then the Skydio would make good decisions for me 30% of the time. It was like I was drunk and it was my designated driver.
Yeah.
I could put the key in ignition, but it was just help me stay on the lines, I guess.
And this is an important conversation, important point. It's a lot of people out there in the community that have the thing, oh, this is me because it's just a follow me drone. They don't realize that it's much more capable than that.
Yeah, I think too. Plus, it's a new product, and I think too, if like you think about just drones in general, I think the community of like drone enthusiasts have been burned by new companies in the past. Like we've seen companies spring up with this amazing product. Like you think about like Wakera, GoPro, they bring these amazing products to the table and then they fizzle within months' time, or there's this major glaring issue that never gets resolved and the company just drops support. And then another thing too, like with the R1, people are really upset. They spend $2,500 on the original drone and they're no longer supporting the batteries. So there could be a little bit of bad taste in their mouth thinking to yourself, well, how long are you going to support this for? And if you come out with the 3, are you just going to say, well, hell, we're not going to support the 2 anymore? So there's questions like that.
Well, here's the thing. The Skydio R1, I think, was a total beta project.
Oh, 100%. I agree with you.
It was
from the top to bottom, a beta project. Yeah. And for that reason, I wouldn't have bought it.
Yeah. We were skeptical on it, and it was huge.
And I don't know if many people that actually bought it. Like who actually spent their money, I'm not sure. I saw it in action once. Ken, remember when we were in New York and we were like outside of New York and Jersey, and we saw it flying, and man, it wasn't good. The wind
wasn't
was
graceful,
and
it was loud. It was really loud. It was really loud, and the footage didn't look very good. It was $2,500, and the footage it looked like a Hero 4 footage. I guess that'd probably be a fair comparison. Hero 4 stuck in like super view.
Well, what you described, Ken, is exactly why I want that drone. I want to be able to fly the thing in places that I would normally not want to fly a drone through. Tighter places around trees or things like that normally would cause me some issues. This
to me, this is like FPV with the bumpers on. Like if you're bumper bowling, I'm really bad with analogies today. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not even drunk today. But it's like FPV because like you watch these guys fly these cine whoops and they're like they have the skill to get through there, and you're like, I want to do that, but I suck. So the Skydio says, all right, come on. And I've got the know-how. All you have to do is hit the stick forward. And now you're putting this drone into like I'm flying through those trees. I would never, ever, ever in a million years. Right. I've never done that. I just would never do that. And you can do that with that. Like I was watching Billy's video of him going down that road, and I know that road and that drone doesn't do that bridge any justice because it's pretty narrow and it's all metal. Mm-hmm. And if you took a DJI drone through there, I'm pretty certain it's crashing because of the compass calibration. But that's the beauty of not really having dependency on GPS solely. It's incredible. Like that was incredible. And then the fact that it decided, okay, well, I'm going to go through the bridge, even though he's not going through the bridge. That's freaking incredible. Yeah.
Well, I think because I ended up coming out on the other side, and then it was like, okay, I'm going to go through the bridge to get to him.
But see, it had to know it went through that bridge from the get-go, that it had to know. I can't believe that it doesn't know. I think it's that smart to know it went through there.
And it probably did that in Billy because it wanted to get him in the proper camera angle. It knew that if it got on the little path where he was, it would have been too much ahead of him or above him. It gave him that nice angle if it went through the big part of the bridge.
But that's like you can't get this stuff anywhere else. And it's like I was joking around with Mike yesterday. I'm like, this was the most exercise I've ever had.
You texted me that.
I did. I'm like, because you're running around and you're just like, I just got 20 minutes of cardio. I'm feeling good. I'm like halfway to a 4-pack. So life is good.
Right. Hey, have you got a controller ordered?
Me, yeah. Mine is going to be delivered on the 17th. And it makes me wonder why it's delivering later when they didn't even make the controller, right? Like think about it. Parrot is creating these controllers. They didn't have to do much on their end. So I wonder what the holdup is there.
Yeah, that was weird, man. I think it has to do with that logistics company, though. I wonder if they're the bottleneck in all of this. You know what I mean?
I suspect it's quite the opposite.
Well, they're all being handmade, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suspect it's a matter of supply getting to that logistics company for them to get them shipped out. But
True.
But the thing is, what's kind of blown me away is, they have to know what their production rate is, and then they know what their orders are. It would seem to me that it would be easy to extrapolate out to say, hey, Fred, you're getting your drone on week whatever. Jack, you're getting your drone on the next week or whatever. But they're not doing that. So it tells you that there are, like as you said, Ken, there's some bottlenecks someplace. And
they didn't expect this.
Production.
You can just tell 100% that they did not expect this. Maybe they were basing, the expectation of supply off of R1, and now all of a sudden, like, this thing blew up. I mean, hell, their marketing team, hats off to them. I hope they all are having great Christmases, because that video sold the living shit out of so many people. I mean, people that probably did the first one where it's they crash a DJI drone. That was genius. That was genius.
Yeah.
I bet you that was the best $800 they've ever spent on a drone to wreck.
They bought that used.
Oh, probably. But still, like, you wreck a drone, you made a statement, you're flying, like, I don't know how many, how it took to get there, but man, that was a great video, and that's what sold this and obviously built the whole hype. And they haven't even, if you think about it, they didn't even involve like larger creators, like no Neistat, no McKinnon. None of these larger creators even had a hand in any of this. This has all just been, I don't know why either. Hell, maybe because they have their hand out. They want money for that type of promotion.
It's true. And Casey Neistat had the Skydio R1 last year.
Right. And I'm sure there was, monetary, money trading hands back and forth for that. That's just the way this works. But like, we paid for our shit and we're flying it and just giving, honest feedback. And I think maybe that's the route. Maybe they don't need to do that anymore. I mean, obviously this thing's talented enough to not have to worry about paying for advertising.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I think.
Yeah. Their problem now is ramping up production, right? I mean, that's I'm sure their biggest headache right now.
And people are losing their mind over the shipping dates. You're like, what order number were you? And I'm like,
yeah. I did the same thing to Ken like a couple of weeks ago. I messaged Ken and said, what was your order number? Because the day you got your email, like, and I was like 300 numbers, above you, whatever. Marcus was like 100 numbers above me. So we're all trying to calculate this out or whatever. And it took you 2 weeks to get yours right once you've got the email. So we're like Mark said, we're figuring, well, ours are going to come Christmas Day, so it's not going to come.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to start telling people I have like, I don't know. I have a sister in the shipping department. I don't know. Like, I don't know what to tell people, because there's a guy that literally his drone shipped, and he's in just probably 2 hours from their corporate, like the office. And I got my drone first, and he still has not got his drone, and he's just losing his mind over UPS not being able to deliver. It's not funny, but it's funny.
When UPS delivered mine, the guy showed up in like an old beat up GMC. So I guess they're kind of adopting the Amazon method, where
either that or they're slammed for the holidays, Ben.
That's it.
They're probably hiring more people, and they're just not using their trucks. They're like, hey, we'll pay you more if you use your car.
UPS, so UPS delivers to me usually about 7:00 at night. Like today, I'm like sitting, like I just said I'm gonna jump in the shower. I'm like probably not gonna get the controller till late, and I know sooner than I jump in the shower, doorbell's ringing. I'm like, crap. I'm like, who the hell is that? And I'm like, UPS this time, like, and it's a guy in a golf cart, and he's got a buggy full of packages behind him. So they must be slammed.
Guys, we got a question from Lauren Donner up in Canada. He says, question for Billy or Ken. The issues you had, do you think they can be something that can be fixed in firmware?
100%. 100%.
I think, look, as much as that Skydio R1 was a beta project, a beta test, whatever you want to call it, I think the Skydio 2 has a little bit of beta-ness in it. But I think the fact that they can bring it down to $1,000 is the reason why it's in such high demand. I mean, it goes from $2,500 to $1,000, and it was significantly improved. it's not a bad drone by any means.
No.
And even the issues I've run into, like the drone not picking me up, I've gotten around those. And anytime you order the Mavic Mini, the first firmware on that drone was brutal. I mean, there was so many
even our Mavic 2 Zoom and Pro, we had, you know, minor issues with that as well. So it's anything is going to have, beta-ness.
Hey, you guys think that's bad? You should try Hubsan. Let me tell you.
I'm good. Billy, you want to try Hubsan?
I don't think so, but I saw that Zino too. Are you guys pretty hype about that?
You saw the specs on it, right? For $399, it's going to blow the Mavic Mini out of the water.
I've got mine pre-ordered.
I'm so sick of Mavic Mini.
$399 with 4K 60 and 33 minutes of flight time and with 6 kilometers range and a detachable gimbal. Which
really
we don't think it's for any of the cameras. It's just when a Zino crashes, there's never anything wrong with it except the gimbal gets broken. So now you just order another gimbal and stick it on there.
That makes sense. That's actually a good idea. I like the idea of removable gimbals.
So do I.
I think the gimbal's pretty robust on the Skydio though. Like I know people were concerned because it stuck out like, you know, all weird, but it's actually pretty robust.
That brings up a question. So is there ever a situation where you saw any props in the shots?
I did actually. Yes. I saw one instance where I saw props in the shot, and it probably would never happen to anybody. It was when Mike and I were flying the 2 Skydios, and he was moving to mine, and it was like almost midair collision. His Skydio, I don't know if they called each other on the phone. They're like, "Hey, you hold it here," but he basically, mine just sort of like jerked out of the way real quick. But in that quick moment, I noticed I saw the props in the shot. Just really quickly. But that was an extreme moment, like where it was making a jerky movement. But other than that, that was the only time.
Yeah.
But that was because it faced the camera down and it tilted. It was weird. But that was the only spot.
Huh. Both of you guys' videos, how long has it been since you were this excited about a drone? Because I know, you know, we all have the Mavic Mini, and you know the excitement level was kind of tough on that. Really did bring anything new to the table, but I see a level of excitement here I haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, I've never been this excited for a drone before. Like my first drone, I was excited, and this is probably reliving that same excitement because it's just something that's so different. It's not like it's what I already have. It's something that's so totally different. And Ken and I were talking, and I was like, man, I really wish that I had that first Skydio drone because I feel like I'd appreciate this drone almost even more. Yeah,
you'd have like the lineage of the development. And yeah, I mean, it's like he said, we've never, and I've said it multiple times lately, is like I've never experienced anything like this, so it's all new to me, and neither one of us really are like active track guys. And people are like, well, why do you need this drone? I'm like, well, because we don't use active track, but this isn't quite active track. And like he's got a boosted board, I have a boosted board, so it's like, you know, when we're riding, sometimes you want to, you know, get that cool shot or cool angle, and you can't sit there and worry about, oh, is the Mavic gonna find me? Like I'm sure there'll be instances where like I lose the Mavic sometimes, but with the Skydio, you just don't really have to worry about that. And you can change the angles quickly.
Ken, in your real estate business, do you see the Skydio fitting into that anywhere? I mean, I guess what I'm thinking about is shots with, you've got a house with a lot of trees around it. It might be easier to do with the Skydio.
Yeah, I can see possibly using it. But it just depends. I'll have to play with it more. I definitely won't do like, it's funny. I always tell Bill, I'll be like, hey, I did this. He's like, why do you do that on a new client? Like, why do you try to test stuff on a client's house? Like first time, like you should just like still do your normal thing, but then test it later. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Just see how it worked out. Like with the Mavic Mini, I tried it on a client's house and it's like, that didn't go so well. But I'll try it. I'm going to try it because the dynamic range is really, really, really good. And the way I don't know, I think it can make some interesting shots. I think it would separate my videos from somebody else's videos. But there is no like the photo modes. I thought there was a mode where it was bracketed exposures, but there's not. I don't see any there's timers, but there's no bracket shots.
No brackets. Same question for you, Billy. In your agricultural stuff that you're doing, do you see a use for it?
Absolutely. I mean, think about it this way, right? If you have multiple jobs where you're potentially going to be creating, you're shooting photos every single every single week of a field, or maybe every single week of a construction site. First of all, a lot of that stuff can be automated. I know that a couple of jobs that I have, the first time I showed up with my Mavic 2 Pro, I set waypoints at the points where I want to shoot photos so that the drone does the flying to each spot. And when I get there, I'll pause it, I'll line it up, I'll shoot the photo so that it's perfect. And then I'll have it move on to the next point, which takes a lot of like the little finite movements out of my workflow, because I'm always trying to line something up so perfectly. And if I can do it one time, and if I can continue to go back to that same spot every single time, it's just going to be a no-brainer. It's going to be so much easier. And also the fact that you can potentially put this inside of some sort of little case, like that box that they showed off, that will allow you to take the drone off. You know, I guess right now with current regulations, you wouldn't be able to operate the drone. Technically, you're not operating it, though it's flying by itself, but nobody would potentially be there to watch it. So think about it this way. If you've got to go somewhere for a shoot and you're going there 10 times, set this drone up inside of the box, inside the little case or whatever you call it, the dock, and then every single day have it go up and have it shoot photos, and it just sends the photos back.
I think that's why I think this thing has to learn. It has to learn the environments. It's got to be learning the environments that it's pilot in. It just wouldn't make sense that it couldn't map and retain that in history.
What do you mean?
Like, so if you have a site and you ran a course on it, even without drone deploy, like, and you know, I don't know if there's going to be some sort of SDK that they would produce later on, but you ran a course with it and it became familiar with, let's say, a field that you were mapping, and it runs that same course every day and it continuously learns and makes adjustments. Like, let's say one day there's a crane on the site and it learns how to adapt around the crane. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think we're dealing with technology that we still don't even understand, and they really haven't really explained. Maybe they're waiting to explain things a little later on down the road. Something, though, that I don't like about the design is where the USB-C port is. I feel like there should be a cover on the USB-C port, because it's directly on top of the drone. And yes, you're not supposed to fly in the rain, but yesterday we were flying through those trees and it must have rained the night before, so there was moisture. If that moisture got down in that USB-C port, I don't know what sort of damage. So I'm gonna look on Amazon. I know they make little, rubberized covers. I'm just gonna put a rubber cover in it. I think that's not a bad idea to do something like that.
Yeah.
Well, you must have been happy about that USB-C. I know you always give thumbs up on a USB-C port on a device.
It's fun. I was scrounging to find a freaking micro USB-C or a micro USB port the other day. I was like, I don't have any of those cables. Everything's USB-C in this house.
Well, here's the thing with the boosted board remote, it is still like a mini USB.
Yeah, what the heck is with that?
The big fat, like bigger version of the.
I would do anything. I would pay if they came out with like a pro boosted controller with USB-C. I would pay like stupid money for that.
Yeah,
I would.
Bill, everywhere I go, I have the the USB-C. I have the Lightning. I have the mini USB, and I have that bigger USB. You just should always have all 4 cables with me, so I'm ready for anything. But hey, we have a question from Bill, the drone reviewer here. I think you guys touched a little bit about this already. He said, "How's the noise level on the Skydio's camera?"
It's not bad at all.
No, I think he's talking about the noise level of the props. I think. Like the overall noise level. What would you compare it to, Bill?
I think it's a little bit louder than the Mavic 2 Pro.
Yeah.
But it's like a deeper sound, so it doesn't appear to be
like an Evo. Sounds like an Evo to me. Like it's like right within that spectrum.
And quite frankly, if the drone is following you, being able to hear the noise of it is nice, because if you don't hear the noise, and you're like, all right, where's it at?
I wish the beacon vibrated or something, like just like give you like just periodically, hey, turn around, look at it. Like
And you know what? Sometimes you're riding, at least for me when I'm riding my boosted board, and I won't hear it, and I'll turn around and be like, where is it? And it comes and it dive bombs down.
Yeah.
Like it's catching up to me, like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, I did that, and I got all like loose when it did that to me, because I was like, crap, because I turned around really quick. I was like, why is it doing that?
And then well, in my video, I turned around, like, oh, it lost me. And then it just shot forward. I'm like, oh, never mind.
It's crazy too. It'll hit a tree, it'll hit branches, but the branches, like, it's like certain drones will hit a branch and it'll knock it out of the air. Not this thing. It's like this thing can fall and then all of a sudden just like get back. I don't know. It's freaking incredible.
Yeah, I mean, Billy's first video, when he as soon as within seconds of taking off, it hits those branches and whatever, and it just cuts right through them.
Yep. Yeah, and you know what? You even saw like the propeller, like the arm of the drone. So I wonder which way it. Like,
I wonder if the underslung design of those props aid like in the way it's able to, get back. Like if it was like if you think about a normal drone, because the props in conventional drones are on top, and if it's fallen, it's going like this. But with the Skydio, if it starts turning like this, well, now you have a prop, and you can speed up your props and make yourself go upright again, because it really can't. It could probably flip if you think about it. The props are underslung, so you can get propulsion in both directions.
Yes, wow. They are quick release.
Okay, I thought so, but I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, and the prop design is very nice. Like it's really like nice, rigid. It's like metal on those props. They're really nice.
They're really solid. They're really firm.
Like the base plate of the prop is like really nice.
It's a thick plastic too.
So
plastic
feels like freaking metal.
So the overall finish is high quality on this drone. That's safe to say.
It screams America. It definitely does.
It's good to hear.
Yeah, Kyle Warner was talking about how he had beat his up pretty good, the beta he had, and he said, "Boy, it takes a licking and keeps on ticking."
Yeah, and I think that's impressive. And I mean, I've tried my damnedest to try to wreck it, and I mean, it's not.
Yeah, you know what? When you have your drone and you're flying it by yourself, you kind of have like a close eye on it as you're flying around. But then, like with the Skydio 2, you're kind of letting it do its own thing. And then when you land it, I remember looking at it, and there was a huge piece of bird crap on the side. And I'm like, oh, how'd that get there?
Well, that's a good point. So is that tough to get used to? Because, we're all paranoid about our drones and about hitting things and so forth. So to get the best out of this, you probably kind of have to let that go a little bit, right?
Yes.
Ken's first video, the title of it was perfect about how you just have to trust it.
You do.
Trust it.
Skydio commented on the recent video, and they said something that was just like, I don't know, like sort of like Titanic-ish. They said, this is what they said. This is Skydio. It says, it takes some practice, but once you master the art of letting go, you can create some pretty insane content when pairing the Skydio 2 plus the controller. So they're basically, I mean, I guess that's their object, their motto, let it go. Or is that Frozen's op?
That's Disney, yeah.
Well, too, I mean, it's pretty insane because like when you're flying around and when I have like the beacon and I'm moving and like I tell it to go to the left, it wastes no time. It darts straight over to the left or it darts straight over to the right. It gets to that position and it stays there.
I wish I was up north because, man, like, where I would want to take this thing, dude, is where we were at, where all those warehouses were.
Oh, yeah.
And just like rip through there with it because it would be incredible footage. Mm-hmm. Incredible footage. And it's like the perfect spot, and the whole Northeast is just like so much.
I'll see you
obstacles. Yeah, with the plane tickets the way they have been. Yeah, hell yeah. Get up there like for $100.
Yeah.
Just bring a Skydio and no underwear.
Real spots that it would just be awesome to fly through.
Yeah, I think like, I'm excited to see what other people do with this, and but I would encourage people to not like get on like forums and like really get overly critical because you will psych yourself out. And even with watching our content, if you already have a Skydio order, I've seen a lot of people are like, I want to cancel my order now. Listen, a lot of the things that we're pointing out, it's not that we're being negative or telling you not to buy it. We're just pointing it out because unlike DJI or other manufacturers, this company is really, really active socially. And I would put money on it that they're, already going back there and saying, hey, we saw this. What can we do? They probably have a scrum board with all the requests or, features or enhancements that should have made it in the software, but it didn't make the final round for production. So I would encourage anybody just to be patient and don't cancel your order, because what's going to happen is you're going to cancel that order and they're going to fix that and you're going to see it in a video and you're going to be pissed.
You're going to have to wait a year.
Right. You're right now, anybody who's got to order, you're only out $100 refundable. $100 refundable.
Right.
That's not bad. That's a pretty damn good guarantee for something like that.
Good point. So you ordered the Cybertruck, I take it.
I did not order the Cybertruck. I did not order a Cybertruck.
So wait, Ron and Marcus, did you guys both get emails that it was shipped?
Tuesday.
Good stuff, guys.
No, we haven't got the shipped email yet.
No, we completed our order, but
Right.
so we haven't got our dates yet. But not only us, but a ton of people we know and we follow, whatever, have said they got their orders on Tuesday. So I think this batch was the real first big batch. So I think about 2 weeks from today, you're going to see the people Ken's talking about. You're going to see all the people out there, on the internet and the groups. They're all going to start getting them about today, and that's when really things are going to break loose.
Well,
go ahead, Ken.
And that's the thing too, is like I'm already seeing a lot of like the criticalness. I mean, and people can say like, well, you guys were really critical of the Mavic Mini and this and that and other thing, but I think with this drone, I expect more. Just because it's touted as, one of the smartest drones, on the planet right now, right?
You can't. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can't take that away from it because it is. There's nothing else that does what this drone does.
Right. So it's like I sort of hold this to a different standard, and it was like people were complaining that I was walking slower with the Mavic 2 Zoom than I was with the Skydio. But if we were drag racing, I would have to give the Mavic Mini like a couple of the Mavic Zoom a couple of car lengths, because it's not like you're racing like a freaking Ferrari, right?
Yeah.
So why would I run faster? Or I mean, it was marginal difference. You saw, Marcus. It's like but that's like the criticalness, like in the mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with regard to what Ron just said about 2 weeks, I'm hoping this hot rod logistics company that they have will get them to us maybe sooner.
I think they will, man. I think they will.
Yeah, and then Billy, I just thought of something. You know that mental hospital that you've flown at before?
Yes.
Good. Skydio. In one window, out the other.
Well, I'm thinking about like how it would perform indoors, because it even knows when things are around it, so it won't like take off. I feel like you almost have to start outside and then bring it in or something.
Yeah, that's what I've determined too, because I tried taking off in the house, wouldn't do it. I took off. I tried taking off in that pavilion I was at. It wouldn't take off in the pavilion, but it would fly through the pavilion, but it wouldn't take off in the pavilion.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it, but again, it's looking for a 20-foot radius. So as long as it sees 20 foot in either direct, in that circumference, then I'm guessing that it should be able to take off like in a warehouse, right?
Yeah.
A warehouse should be big enough.
Any good light in that warehouse or that building?
They flew it into that. They had a drone convention in California, and they literally flew it into the convention, but I don't know. They probably started outside. They also flew it through their warehouse. Again, their warehouse you don't know where they started from though.
They could always be using a special version of the software.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a lot we don't know. And I mean, I don't want to get overly critical on it, because it's super fun to fly. And this is probably the easiest drone to make videos on right now, because it is really fun. And every time you take it up, you're seeing something different than you saw the last time.
That you've never seen another drone video before.
I think I count half of the views of my Skydio 2 video on YouTube, because I just keep watching it and I just smile myself. I already know the outcome of the video. I made the damn video and I'm just smiling at how awesome it is to see this drone just like buzz around. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
When you say 20-foot envelope, is it like 10 foot on each side or 20 foot?
See, I don't know specifically. My thought is it's 10, 10, 10. Because what I've seen, and like when it takes off initially, it goes back about 10 feet. But it's still weird to stay. You'll have to see when you get it, Marcus, and you take it up for the first time. You're going to be like a little nervous at first, because you're like, wait, what is it doing? But then it doesn't hit anything and it stabilizes. I mean, that's how I was when I first took it. I was like, what the freak? I was just like, this is nuts. And landing it too, to land it in your hand. Everybody was concerned about those underslung props. No problems.
No,
you have so much clearance.
You grab it from the battery in the back. You're not even near those.
You're not even near the props, and it's like perfect. I remember when they first announced that. Oh, that's stupid. People are going to cut their hands. You're nowhere near it. Here's
something interesting about the battery. Huge pain in my butt. There's a lot of things that can trigger the battery to not charge, even though you think it's charging. So like if I've got it plugged in and it's charging, and I remove the battery to take out the SD card, and then I put the battery back in and it looks like it's charging, it won't charge. You've got to like totally unplug it from the wall, unplug it from the drone, replug it all in order to restart the charging process, because seating the battery back in after you take out the SD card, it won't charge.
Wow.
So there's like all these little things that you find, and it's just like, whoa, that's so weird.
Somebody asked what the battery life is. Battery life's right about 22 minutes or so. I mean, the other thing is you don't really know when it's going to when it's going to return to home or when it's going to auto land. But from what I saw with Mike's battery, it was 10%, and that's when it decided it was going to land. And we flew that probably for about 23 minutes, almost 25 minutes, what it felt like. So you cannot set a period of when it's going to land. Like there's no way to adjust that, which I think it could be crucial for some, depending on how far out you are. Mm-hmm. The other thing is like with the Mavic, if I fly the Mavic out far, like island far, doing a range test, and you don't have enough of battery to make it back, I don't know if this drone's going to know it doesn't have enough battery. The Mavic will say, hey, you do not have enough power to make it back. So
here's the thing. I think that when you're flying around, it doesn't take into account where the home point is. It takes into account where the beacon is. So if it's like, oh, the beacon is 10 feet away from me, we can just burn this battery down till 10% and then land. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if that's something you would want. I think that there should be some more customization in terms of...
I agree. But I agree. But again, I think that's why they asked people not to do range tests with it, like when they were doing the beta testing. I think they knew some of this, these things were present. I don't think it detracts or takes away from the drone. It's just different. It's so different.
What's it called? The app is very bare bones. I mean,
it is very bare bones.
Didn't have much to change. This app is even more slimmed and trimmed down.
And it just confuses the hell out of me. Like the menu system is sort of like it's simple, but it's clunky in the same breath because like the tabs don't really make sense. If you want to go change any sort of configurations on the drone itself, like it's almost hidden in a sub menu because you have like these 3 areas where it's like information about the drone. And then there's an area that's just Skydio, and it almost looks like a Wi-Fi connection. But when you click on that, that's where you can get information about the drone. You can reset, memory cards and things like that. I don't know. It's just a little weird.
They should have had Parrot do the app as well.
Yeah. I like the Nafi app. But I think what I've heard from you guys so far is, and this is most important, a lot of things like this, they sounds like they got the hardware right.
Oh yeah.
So in 6 months from now, with a bunch of firmware updates, not only to the drone, but app updates too, they may get this drone to where we want it to be.
Yeah. And that's the thing, because if you didn't get the hardware right, there's no help. There's no hope, but because they got the hardware right, like at least now we have, okay, we can fix software. I say they can fix it, but it's, I think that's most important. They can get the software fixed later, but I also want there to be a way to go a little faster with it. Like you can increase the throttle, but the drone still will react the same. I don't know. It's hard to make sense. Like I want a true sport mode sort of with it. So when you aren't, tracking something, you're in open air, you can like literally rip it. I mean, it seems like it's pretty fast.
What drone do you compare it to as far as speed right now?
Mavic 2.
I don't know. I don't know about Mavic. I'd say maybe like
Mavic Air.
Mavic Air, yeah, Mavic Air speed. I think the Mavic Air is fast. That thing hits like 45 miles. Actually, we don't know how fast this drone goes. There's no data.
But clearly, it accelerates really fast. Because,
it accelerates. It can get up and go. It can definitely get up and go when it needs to.
Because it needs to make those quick adjustments, and it wants to make sure that it's always keeping up with you. So it's going to make these movements very fast, and it's cool to see.
And it's just such a good looking drone too.
It's quick.
It's people, when people see that, when people, like I was at the skate park, they've never seen anything like this before. And you know what I think is so cool about it too is like as you're flying with the app and the controller, and it probably does this on anything else, but if you point to a car, it knows it's a car. It's got a little bubble icon and it shows that there's a car, and if you tap it, you can track that car. And then if you point to a person, there will be a little circle on the person with a plus sign, and then you can tap it as you're flying with the controller. So now you can switch to, active track, letting the drone do the tracking for you. I'm waiting for somebody flying near a freeway and freaking hit a car at a stoplight or something, and then they're bye Skydio.
Oh,
Can you imagine?
Fucked.
But it's pretty cool though.
Bill T has a question. He said, "Did either of you order the ND filters for the drone?"
Nah,
I didn't.
I haven't had a need for it. Freewell's sending some ND filters out for testing. So I'll just wait for those. I mean, not that the price was bad, but I didn't like. There's not a really easy way to adjust the camera configurations from within the as you're live flying. Like at least with Parrot, DJI, Autel, you have some camera controls right there, and it doesn't detract from what you're seeing. With this, when you tab over to the camera, the configurations consumes the whole screen.
Okay, so adjusting the shutter is a big process.
Yeah, essentially. At least right now, I just think that could be better. The whole app could definitely be better, but it's not designed for. I call it conventional flyers. It wasn't designed with us in mind, essentially, if that makes sense.
No, it actually does make a lot of sense.
Right.
I wonder how much data Skydio is able to
Zero.
people.
You have to upload the data to them.
Okay, that's what I was.
It's not like they're pretty crazy about privacy as well. And you can upload a single log or you can upload all of your logs. But I would say the only time you need to upload it, because you're not building an account. So my thought process is they probably have an FTP server. And, if you upload, it's going to create a folder for your serial number and they'll access that when they need it. But it's not like DJI where there's information going back and forth. There's also no flight restrictions, which pretty freaking nice, man, because not this encourage flying in areas that you shouldn't, but you don't have to worry about unlocks.
Yeah,
True.
Which is everybody's frustration with DJI. I mean, if you're a commercial shooter like you guys, I that's just got to be a nightmare sometimes.
This drone is more responsible than I am.
Right. Yeah, that's a good thought. Well, listen, guys, we've been going over a little over an hour now. So, Bill and Ken, any final thoughts or comments you want to make about the drone so far, or what do you have planned on your channel?
I want to see. You know what I want to do is go up there, go up north, go to Atlantic City, and see if we can put it through that Ferris wheel.
Well, guess who lives down the street from Atlantic City? You guys stop.
We should. We should see, because last year we flew up there about a little bit after Christmas time. We went to Atlantic City and we were flying just right outside that Ferris wheel.
Yeah, that was fun.
Cool.
That would be hype, because you came close to it with the Inspire. Could you imagine just going right through it?
Yeah.
Wow. And right under the steel pier with it at full speed and so on. Speaking of that, I'm meeting Ken Heron the day after Christmas in Ocean City for his meetup.
I'll be there.
Okay. Will you, Skydio?
Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
Then. Well, again, I can't thank you guys enough for coming on tonight. I mean, I just thought it was important. I mean, Ken, you're away on the road next week, and Bill, you're probably getting ready to end school, so you probably got a lot of holiday stuff going on. So it's good we kind of got this out of the way now. But
it's cool.
Maybe some big developments in the Skydio happen. After the holidays or whatever, we can maybe get back and rehash all this again. Marcus and I have ours by then. So I wish you guys both a great holiday coming up. I'm going to throw it back to Marcus, and he's kind of going to end the show.
Yeah, no, just Billy and Ken, thank you both for coming on, because we've all learned so much from your initial experiences, and then being able to watch your videos and then follow up with questions here in this environment has been very helpful. So thank you for taking the time out of your day, and can't wait to see your next videos, and can't wait to get my own Skydio. So
yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, guys. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And thanks for everybody joining us in the chat tonight. We had a lot of great questions. Sorry we couldn't get to all the questions, but you guys were engaged, asking really intelligent things. So if I don't talk to anybody, you guys in the chat or whatever, happy holidays. Good night.
Happy holidays, guys.
Good night.